We'll start with Judd Zolgad, the third pie chart of praise for the Minnesota Vikings after their second consecutive win yesterday.
All right, 6 pieces. Whoa. 6 pieces of pie.
Are you gonna give? Is it going to be all 5 offensive linemen and Dalvin Cook? Is that what you're doing? Are you going John Madden on us right now?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. They got dirty, though, yesterday.
15%.
They got dirty.
Dakota
Look at that boom.
Dozier.
Look at that boom. Dakota Dozier. The poor guy on the Abdullah screen pass for a touchdown. I swear to God, guys, Dakota Dozier hustled downfield and was 15 yards downfield looking. He did a complete 360 saying, who can I block? And the Lions were all like, peace out, dude.
We're good. Yeah, we're good.
We're not. No. Yeah. We're not doing that today anymore. All right. 6 pieces of pie. 40% goes to Dalvin Cook, who, again, was outstanding. Dalvin Cook, if he continues on this pace, is going to make a very good case that the MVP and the top quarterback should be separated.
Yes, I agree. There should be 2 separate awards.
Because, look, without him, where are they? Seriously.
Couldn't they just call it like the most valuable non-quarterback or something?
Seriously.
And then it can be a pass rusher. It can be a running back.
Yes.
It should never not be a quarterback. Like the quarterback should always be an MVP.
Patrick Mahomes or Russell Wilson are it. I get that. But Dalvin Cook, again, fantastic. A career-high 206 yards. I mean, that's just incredible. So he gets a 40% chunk of the piece of pie. 30%, Mike Zimmer. He continues these last 2 games. He's coached really good games. I still think that this goes back to the bye week and adjustments that he probably made on defense. But as much, I think he called Coobs in and said, we're doing it my way. We're going to run. And I'm not saying, gentlemen, that is sustainable for the rest of this year because you're going to fall behind in games and have to throw. But for these 2 games, it's worked really well. So Zim, whose team at one point was 1-5, has won 2 consecutive games. And some of that has to do, for sure, in my mind, with coaching.
Yeah.
30% to Zim. 20%, I'm going to do it as a chunk of pie, a whole chunk, not individually, offensive line.
So you're just gonna throw a chunk of pie out, 5 forks, and say, guys, go eat it.
Let me give you a Madden-esque line.
Football.
We are talking about road graders. The big fat guys are road graders. Ezra Cleveland, who stepped in at right guard, really the last 2 games has been fantastic. I still think that there's probably issues with their pass protection, but guess what? I believe in the past 2 games, Kirk has thrown something like an average of 17 passes per game. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, a lot of it doesn't matter. Action. Yeah.
So we are talking about a plan that uses the offensive line to what it does well. It run blocks well.
Come on! Football!
And now we get to the teeny little morsels of pie. The teeny morsels of pie. Just small. Just little ones.
The novel you've been working on, a little cherry pie? A little piece there? A little Gosha? Okay, Bradbury?
Okay, just a small 5% piece. I was trying to go through last night and think, what part of the defense really deserves this? Like, what area? What area? I landed on the linebackers. Kendricks, Wilson. Kendricks these past 2 games has been fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, he's probably doing 8 jobs. I don't know.
He's ridiculous.
But he has been fantastic. And that position group, to me, is a definite anchor group. Like, they stabilize things. Linebackers, and in particular, the 2 guys that got picks on Sunday, Wilson and Kendricks, 5% piece. All right? 4%, I have to do it. It's a backhanded deal, but I have to. 4%, the Lions defense. I thought the Packers couldn't tackle. Like, I think the Packers had a bad day defensively, boys. The Lions made decisions. Yeah. And those decisions were, we hate Matt Patricia. He's a defensive coach. We are not going to tackle. We are going to stink. And congratulations, they did. And that is 99% of a piece of pie.
I like it.
No, it's 99%. I'm not done.
Oh,
there's 1% piece left to give out. And that 1% piece goes to a man who, I will admit, postgame did not sound super thrilled about his team's big win. In fact, would you like to fire it up again?
Yeah, this is enthusiastic Kirk Cousins breaking down a Vikings victory.
Yes, I thought the Lions did a good job in coverage. Not just
they were doing a good job taking away some things down the field, and you have to go where your reads take you, and then those guys have to make plays too. And Dalvin did on the linebacker and man coverage, and Amir obviously did on the screen, and we had a couple runs that hit as well. So it was a nice combination of plays to get down there, and again to get 7 instead of 3, I think is a big deal.
Just 7 instead of 3. Just firing off cliches.
1% piece of pie goes to a guy who is fully delusional, but I don't care because he as long as you do your job, which is don't pass too much.
EYJ.
The last 2 games, gentlemen, Kirk Cousins has thrown, so not completed, 14 and 20 passes. On the list of games since he joined the Vikings in 2018, those fall 2 and 3 for fewest attempts in games by Kirk Cousins.
The only other one was the Falcons opener?
10 attempts, in the September 8th, 2019 opener against the Falcons.
Yeah.
I'm giving him a 1% piece of pie because I don't care how he sounds. He just needs to accept his role, and these past 2 games, he has.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't seem like the type of guy that's going to like go kicking and screaming, and that.
Yeah,
I'll give him credit for that too. Like the entire team has sort of come to the realization that, all right, well, our formula to win, and really, it's the only formula offensively. It's one of the best formulas in the NFL when it's working. At some point, I would be concerned that the Chicago Bears are going to come out on Monday night and say that formula ain't going to be the one that wins you this game.
Yeah,
so find
absolutely.
a different one. But I'll get to my pie chart here. That's so go through yours again.
Okay,
real quick.
so Cook 40% piece of pie. Zim gets a 30% piece of pie. The offensive line as a whole gets 20%. Linebackers from the Vikings get 5%. 4% goes to a Detroit defense that made business decisions, and those included not trying on Sunday. And then a small 1% piece to Kirk Cousins for accepting who he should be.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
All right, boys. I have 4 pieces of glorious pie chart of praise here for the Vikings. We'll start with the largest chunk. 70% goes to Dalvin Cook. He's the best running back in the NFL. Before the season, I was saying if he's healthy, he's top 3. He's healthy, he's number 1. He's more versatile than Derrick Henry. I would say there's other guys that sort of fit the same mold. If you can play him on every down, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you can play on every down. There's other guys like
Kamara.
Kamara for sure, Zeke Elliott, but he's the best of all of those. And here's the amazing set of statistics on him. I'll give you a few here. So he's actually played fewer games than all of the other running backs that are vying for the rushing title.
Mm-hmm.
Yet he sits atop.
Mm-hmm.
So he has played 1 fewer game than Derrick Henry, and he has 15 more yards. He leads the NFL in rushing yards. He leads the NFL in rushing touchdowns, and he leads the NFL with 6 yards per carry among running backs. The only player that has carried the ball at least 75 times that has a higher rush yards per carry is Kyler Murray, because Kyler Murray can just sort of spring from the pocket whenever he wants to.
Yep.
He's averaging 7 yards per carry, but this is by all accounts an historical season for Dalvin Cook, and he's only halfway through it, so he's got to stay healthy. Here's a couple more nuggets. I found this on stathead.com yesterday and tweeted this out. Mm-hmm. This is only the 6th time in Vikings history a player has gone for 225 scrimmage yards or more and 2 touchdowns or more in the same game. Dalvin Cook has done it twice each of the last 2 weeks. Adrian Peterson did it twice, both times in 2007, his rookie year. Chuck Foreman did it once in 1976, and Bill Brown did it in 1964. That's your list. And Dalvin Cook makes up 33% of that list. And I'm going to guess it's probably not the last time he goes for 225 from scrimmage and a couple of touchdowns. Maybe not even this year. So I just yes, there's other things, and I will praise other things. But when you set up the game plan and then you execute the game plan for this guy to thrive, look what happens. Like, obviously, he has shown you and shown the entire league how good he can be. 10% of my pie.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
Goes to the offensive line. And maybe I'm shortchanging them a little bit, but the offensive line deserves huge credit for just were they perfect on every play? No. Was Dalvin Cook having to sometimes improvise on his own and juke back and find his own holes? Yes. But ultimately, when you include Alex Madison toward the end of the game, the offensive line helped pave the way for 8 yards per attempt on 34 attempts in that game. It was a college football game. It was like watching Ohio State play the Gophers in the mid-90s or something. Every single time they handed off,
Tackling was the same, you're right.
Boom, a sprint to the first down marker. Actually, one other Dalvin Cook note here, all right? Dalvin Cook has gained 48 first downs on the season in 7 games.
Mm-hmm.
So Dalvin Cook is averaging like 7 first downs per game. Think about that. And a lot of those are like, he just runs for 10 yards.
Yeah, exactly right. 14 or
and
so.
He goes. Mm-hmm. So the offensive line did a really good job, and they have, I think, just sort of incrementally improved week after week after week.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
And run blocking, 10% of my pie goes to Mike Zimmer because the team clearly has not lost faith in him. How many coaches, after being around for 7 seasons, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
He's
14.
In the 7th, yeah.
7th season, and you start 1-5. That's almost always a recipe for an in-season firing, or maybe just like, all right, it's over. We're going to ride the season out. How many coaches who've been there that long, who start off that poorly, lift it back up and get everyone re-engaged and get everyone back on the same page? So we'll see what happens. Maybe they get smoked by the Bears on Monday night. I mean, this thing is still a little bit of a house of cards because, they have to keep winning.
Yeah.
But the fact that the team clearly has not quit on him after a 1-5 start, major credit to Mike Zimmer. What were you going to say?
Me, nothing.
Oh, sorry.
No,
I'm
going
The
along
Rock
with this.
knows how you feel about pie.
I like it.
And
You're on a
also,
roll.
like, his stable of inexperienced defensive players is stepping up. I mean, is it perfect? Are they still allowing some big plays here and there? Yes. But he's taken a bunch of rookies and inexperienced backup type guys, and he is doing very well with them the last couple weeks.
Don't also lose sight of the fact that it's very interesting that they are clearly a more cohesive group without Ngakoue, which I find to be interesting. I don't know what it means exactly, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and actually, if you go back to some of Mike Zimmer's teams with Cincinnati and whatnot, like a lot of his best defenses weren't, up until Danielle Hunter came along, weren't predicated on the big time pass rusher. It was more of a schematic
and it was
approach.
It was pressure. You're exactly right.
But it was pressure in the interior. It was pressure sometimes from linebackers.
But it wasn't sacks.
Yep, it wasn't like Jared Allen,
yes.
Michael Strahan. It wasn't that.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
And then the other 10% of my pie chart of praise goes to Gary Kubiak.
Ooh.
So Gary Kubiak came into this season with a reputation of being one of the great run schemers in the last 20 to 25 years. The guy that could take your 6th round pick running back, your Arian Foster, your Terrell Davis, other random dudes, and just turn them into Pro Bowlers and guys who can gain, 1,000, 1,500 yards. What we're watching these last couple of weeks and what we've sort of watched evolve this season, this is what happens when you put one of the great run game schemers together with one of the NFL's great running backs, and the offensive line does enough to create some holes. You get a team now that not only leads in rushing, but the Vikings lead the NFL in yards per play offensively overall. You can make a strong case this morning based on the numbers. The Vikings have the best or most productive offense in the NFL, and they're doing it the old school way and the handoff way.
I would love to know what transpired during the bye week where they did shift things, which they clearly did. But like, were those discussions Mike going to Gary or Mike and Gary sitting down? Like there was just a definite, in my mind, discussion about the fact that Kirk has thrown 10 picks. Kirk does not look great, but that does not make Kirk a terrible QB. He has to be used right, and Dalvin as well. So I would love to have been a fly on the wall for that, to hear like how they morphed the offensive philosophy to where they've been these past 2 games, which is to say, if we use guys correctly, it's going to work out.
Some of it I think too is, maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but it took them like 5 or 6 weeks to figure out who their best 5 offensive linemen were. And maybe some of it was they just needed Ezra Cleveland without a preseason slate and without offseason workouts to just get ingrained into NFL culture and practices. But has Ezra Cleveland been perfect? Absolutely not. But is Ezra Cleveland clearly their best right guard so far that they've tried out this season? Yes, and it makes a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, Drew Samia was a train wreck. Like, it was awful. And this guy has stepped in and probably been asked to do exactly what he can do, which is great. But yeah, it's just the change in these past 2 games to where they've been. And I realize it's very important. It's not sustainable if you're down by 14. But just to sort of dominate the line of scrimmage and the game itself is what's going to work for them. And if they fall down by 14 or so, it's probably done. But still, it's good to see that they are using Cook as he has to be used. The issue is, can he stay on the field consistently? And I don't know if the answer to that question is yes.
I'll give you one more real quick off the offensive line slice of pie here, and we'll get way more into our football nerd segment tomorrow. Is going to have a ton of material on Purple Daily, so be sure to check that out. But on the offensive line, so Pro Football Focus is what we tend to lean on for offensive line grades, because like unless you're sitting there with a trained eye and you're staring at the trenches for 3 hours, which like nobody does.
I think you should do that next game.
I think we should make our video scout Declan do that actually against the Bears. You only watch the offensive line against the Bears and report back to us.
Vikings offensive line. I can do that.
No, let's pick out some more college quarterbacks. That's more fun.
Yeah, I don't want him doing that. That's a bad idea. That's a bad use of his time.
But so Pro Football Focus grades on a 1 to 100 scale, and it's like real life Madden grades, right? And anything under 50 is kind of a train wreck. If you're 50 to 60, 65, like it's bad, but it's not Pat Elflein bad. Once you get above like 70 grades, you're very much starting caliber and you're good, right? Garrett Bradbury in 2019, overall offensive line grade of 57, which is like borderline, tough to start you in his rookie season.
Mm-hmm.
This year, just a tick under 70 overall.
Okay.
So he's made a big step forward, and he's made big steps forward in both pass blocking and run blocking. And on a run blocking scale, he's a 72. So he has become a good run blocking
he's very
center,
solid. Okay.
And he's taking a big step forward. And I think that's a really big deal that you may have found your franchise center, even if he's not a perennial all pro. If he's just a reliable franchise center for 5 or 6 years, you can breathe a sigh of relief. So 70% Dalvin Cook, 10% offensive line, 10% Zimmer, 10% Gary Kubiak.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
Dex, what's your pie chart of praise?
I have a very similar pie chart of praise as you feel. It starts with Dalvin Cook. 60% of this pie. I have 4 pieces of pie. 4 pieces of pie. Dalvin Cook, 60%. He's a monster. He's an absolute fiend. I mean, 220 yards yesterday, and he absolutely is running all over the place. It's like when you put the rookie setting on Madden, and you're just, and also you're like an adult. So it's not like you're a kid and you're playing on rookie. Like you are an adult. You put the difficulty
You're
on
a grown-ass
rookie.
man. You're in the Packers front office.
Grown-ass man, and you're averaging 10 yards per carry, which is almost what Dalvin averaged yesterday. So Dalvin Cook is a monster. Can't wait for our Viking statements on Purple Daily because I have another one to make. But 60% of the pie to Dalvin Cook.
Love it.
20% of the pie does go to the Vikings offensive line. They were, as you say, road graders yesterday. They were phenomenal. They were creating lanes. And, I think it's a little bit that Dalvin Cook is a very dynamic running back. We talked about this on Vent Line. There isn't a bunch of dancing around looking for the holes like AP used to do. This dude just plows forward and an absolute monster. And the offensive line does deserve credit for that.
He kind of glides, doesn't he? Like,
yes.
It's almost like he's floating an inch above the ground.
He actually waits. AP's biggest problem was, and there were guys on the line who it drove crazy. He would run up their backs. And I think it was Hutch who finally said, Adrian, watch me and wait because you are on my heels and I can't block that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, Phil, your reference to Dalvin gliding is because he hesitates just slightly and waits for that block to open things up, where Peterson was basically on top of things way too quickly.
The Rock knows how you feel about
He was
pie.
still great, though, just to be clear.
So that's 2 pieces of pie. I'm up to 80%. I'm going to give 10% of pie to our guy, Kirk Cousins.
Wow.
Kirk Cousins deserves a little piece of pie for today. I mean,
I get 1%.
for yesterday. He was pretty damn good. 220 yards, 3 touchdowns, 11 yards per attempt. He was able to find Justin Jefferson, able to find Irv Smith. Kirk deserves some credit. I know he's overpaid, whatever. This was a good game for Kirk Cousins, back-to-back games for Kirk. And now I know it's Kirk-tober in October. Now it's Kirk November. Kirk member. I don't know how we want to roll with that. But Kirk does deserve some pie. And then the last piece of pie does go to Mike Zimmer. 10% of this pie to Mike Zimmer for being very creative. And I know Matt Stafford didn't practice this week, but still, Matt Stafford with no practice and quarantine is automatically better than Chase Daniel and David Blau with a full week of practice. Let's be real here.
Don't put Chase Daniel down, man. He's
it's
really
true.
so
it's
good.
True. He did best Mike Zimmer last year coming cold off the bench, so I can understand it. But I do think Mike Zimmer deserves some credit, and that defense was very opportunistic, creating some turnovers, so he gets 10%. So my pie chart of praise, Dalvin Cook 60%, Vikings offensive line 20%, Kirk Cousins 10%, and Mike Zimmer 10%.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
There it is. Pretty similar. We're all giving Dalvin Cook the Lions share. No pun intended.
I see what you did there.
Of the pie.
Oh, boy.
Mm-hmm. And
I hope he can bear down next week.
The Bears.
There are disturbing things. He doesn't seem to be able to run a hurry-up offense, and he doesn't seem to be able to understand tempo. When they're moving down the field, then he huddles up when he has the other defense on the ropes. Unfortunately, you're judged on wins and losses. They started out pretty good. However, we have to remember that, 3 plays go the other way for the Bears, and they're like 2-7. At the end of the day, you got to win. And if they can't win, then I think they have to replace him. And Mr. Pace shouldn't be too far behind him.